Great. So we are GenVis, a visual artificial intelligence company. We basically help organizations act on visual data, often as a core business function. So we're helping organizations like community service providers from aged care, healthcare, family violence, and also through to law enforcement. So wherever they have a lot of information to process, whether it's CCTV footage that is live or archived video files, that they need to look through to investigate a crime, we're there to help them do that and automate that process. So we're quite a young startup. We're just over 2 years old and things have been moving pretty fast for us. So I thought I'd talk about the last few chapters in our history, and they've really been defining for us. So we have really been able to decide that we are a public value company. So lots of use cases for our technology, but we really absolutely focus on where we can be of public value. So this came about from a year in Australia, in WA, where 28 people were murdered in less than 12 months just in WA. Across Australia, about one person is dying every week as a result of family violence. So it was with that backdrop that every time I'd open the news, I would see that, some horror story about someone's life being taken very early from them. And it felt like we could do something about it. So we actually approached WA Police and said, we want to help, we want to do something. We've got facial recognition technology, we've got computer vision technology, there's something that we can do today. Now, they acted really quickly with us. They literally came to our office the very next day, saw some demonstrations of the technology, and from that moment we worked very tirelessly and collaboratively to build a solution that really fit the needs of both law enforcement in their efforts to do a few things. Obviously keep people safe, but also hold perpetrators accountable for their actions. And we basically got to understand the need to empower victims. So you don't want to prolong a victim mentality at the same time. You really need to put some control back into the hands of people who are experiencing family violence and let them take control of their own situations. So we wanted to make this as seamless and as user-friendly as possible, and that meant keeping costs really low, making this affordable. And so we came across the idea of being able to turn any home security camera or any IP camera into a smart camera. And that would not require any additional investments in terms of edge computing or hardware. So it's really, really important that a lot of people are starting to use home security cameras, but that's actually not really that effective in the case of family violence, when all it's going to do is record something bad that's happened, and great, a police can come and investigate it, but it's too late. So we wanted to turn that into a smart camera that would feed real-time information to the victims. So we essentially analyze camera feeds live, and whenever we're detecting activity, we're analysing that activity in the cloud, and we're running facial recognition, and we're sending alerts when someone who shouldn't be there is there, and even when there are particular types of activities that are occurring and that person needs to actually be able to have that information to keep themselves safe. So from here you can see it's going to show all of the activity, and they're actually from the app going to be able to press play and view that clipping then and there. So in the case that someone's obscured their face, it's night, and they're not sure from one grainy image if that's the person, you'll be able to look at the footage and actually be able to verify that quickly. Really importantly, it is about providing evidence for police as well. So we've had one incident where we've actually gone live. We've gone live with this as a trial. We initially started helping victims who were being stalked and harassed. One victim had been getting harassed for 5 years. So if you can imagine living in fear of your life for 5 years, it's just not something that needs to happen these days. And we're now moving from this trial into helping people who are really at high risk. So it's being embraced by law enforcement, which is really fantastic. But we worked very closely with WA Police, as I said, to make sure the victims are empowered and the police have that evidence. So on one occasion, an assault was captured, and police were able to go in and actually view footage from the app and actually be able to see then and there what they needed to do and take action. So they'll then be able to use that to prosecute and to hold people accountable. So we're really proud of this. So we know this is an Australian first initiative, and it's possibly world first. And the use cases are obviously wherever you have a vulnerable person who needs to be safe at home, and that could be from disabled people, blind people wanting to know who's attending their property, to family violence. It's really got very broad use cases. In this instance, we're talking about a subscription, so AI is often really expensive, and this is a subscription model that is $20 a month. We actually do this for free to victims of family violence, and we just ask that the organisations that we work with pay for any cameras that a victim may not be able to afford. So that's been really, really fantastic. Through working with police, they actually started bringing in more people, more officers, more detectives to actually start looking at the sort of tech that we are building. It became really clear that there was a massive problem with the amount of information, the amount of visual footage, CCTV footage, that officers around Australia and the world are actually having to manually review to find what has happened in the course of a crime, to find suspects, to find key witnesses, and to make sense of that, to build cases and to prosecute. So with the WA Technology Crime Services, again, we're all about collaboration and building the technology that actually helps our customers. That means taking advice from them and not just putting our opinions and our beliefs onto them, but really working with them to build the best solution that we can. So we think we've built Mothership as the best of breed forensic video analytics solution that is available today. It is helping officers now speed up investigations and close more cases. So from the time a crime is committed, there are massive challenges with even collecting video footage and making requests, whether it's to a retailer who has had someone stealing merchandise, to any scenario where you need to get the footage. It is really, really difficult. So we have actually got a system where police can send requests for footage. They don't need to get in the car. They don't need to go and get that footage anymore. So it's going to go straight into our solution and start getting processed in real time. So it's always good to talk about results. And one of our favourite stories is actually being able to do in 5 minutes what it took 12 officers 4 months to do. And that is when they're in a room, barely, able to take a break, just sifting through hours of footage. And if you can imagine what that feels like every day to go to work and know that that's your job, and you've got to try to annotate data, you've got to even play files that you can't make play. Our system converts files, makes everything playable, so there's just no friction when it comes to using it. But that was really fantastic. If you think about, 10 investigators rather, $500,000 in salary, that's one case. And this is all across Australia and all across the world that we're able to do things in 5 minutes. So that was really fantastic for us. So chapter 3 is where we are today. And that really is about making this solution available to more people, but in a real-time scenario. So with the forensic video analytics, it's really about that archive footage, that pre-recorded footage. But what we really love doing as well is helping people get intelligence in real time so that they can make really better decisions, and whether that is to protect people and assets or just understand what's happening in a space. It's a really, really valuable thing. So a prime example would be our work in aged care. So Royal Commission, lots of pressure for aged care providers to actually prove that they're delivering care and services. So what we're able to do is cameras are going into all of the facilities, and we're actually able to detect people and track them. So we can actually prove with a click of a button that care was delivered. And so again, looking at results, we were able to help an aged care provider conduct or present the evidence that they needed for an audit in minutes rather than weeks. They had to prove that night visits were being delivered to all of the residents, and the information was already there. This is really, really useful as well for if someone's exhibiting aggressive behaviour, or someone who is cognitively impaired has wandered off into an area that they're not supposed to be there. You want to get an alert in real time. And so it's about taking that live information and knowing what do you then do with it. So we've really enjoyed doing that, and we're now in the process of expanding, working with more and more agencies. We work a lot with government, but that's always through a very stringent process of understanding use cases, building solutions, trialing them, and iterating quickly. So in the example of law enforcement, we actually got them that first forensic solution as an alpha version within 3 weeks of our meeting. And we put it into their hands. We delivered as an on-premise solution so that we could act quickly. They weren't ready to go cloud. You're talking about some sensitive data. So from there, it then becomes an iterative process where we are logging feedback and making changes accordingly. So really working with them. We often sit down with customers and spend time in their offices, and they love to come to ours as well and really understand how they need to use our technology solutions. So very keen to talk to anyone who's interested in hearing about how we can help you protect people and assets. Very much interested in that as the key driver for us, and we are looking at both national and global opportunities at the moment, which is great. Thank you.